Hi, good morning and welcome to Explorers Club. I'm Miss Mary, the Storytime Programmer at the Faulkner County Library in Conway, Arkansas. And today we are exploring cakes, and specifically the kitchen chemistry behind cakes. How is it that you mix together flour and sugar and egg and baking powder and a little bit of oil or butter, and you stir it all up, put it in a hot oven, and a few minutes later it comes out as something very different, something spongy and tasty? Well, to do that, we are going to make 4 different little tiny cakes today. We're gonna make a regular cake with all the ingredients in it. And then we're gonna make another cake without cooking oil. We're gonna make a 3rd cake without an egg. And we're gonna make a 4th cake without baking powder so that we can figure out which ingredient does what to make our cake come out the way it does. You can follow along at home. I'll be sending home the recipe. And what's a recipe? That's right, the recipe are the directions for how to make a meal or a dish in a kitchen. I'm gonna send home the recipe for the little tiny cakes, but I'm also gonna send you home a recipe card and some ingredients so that you can make a mug cake in your microwave, a chocolate chip one. How exciting. So, first things first, we are gonna get our ingredients together. We are gonna use our math skills to measure our ingredients. We are going to use our fine motor skills to measure and mix those ingredients together. And we're probably gonna use some early literacy skills to follow that recipe. I'm so excited about making cakes. Let's get started. I've got my ingredients and I've got my utensils, the things I'm gonna need to use to measure and stir. So let's just go over it and make sure that I have everything. We need flour, check. We need sugar, check. We need salt. Ooh, hold on, where is the salt? Oh, check, here it is. We need milk, got some milk. We need cooking oil, got some cooking oil. We need some vanilla for this, got some vanilla. And we need an egg, and yep, I even have some eggs here. Okay, now that we know that we have our ingredients, we are probably going to have to start measuring. I've got a bowl for stirring and mixing the batter. I've got a smaller bowl and a fork for the eggs. I've got a big spoon for stirring. I've got some measuring spoons, and then I've got these little ramekins I'm gonna make little tiny cakes in them. All right, I have washed my hands, and I've got a little oven right here. So let's see. First, we are going to mix the dry ingredients together. So dry ingredients are things that are not wet. So that would be, let's start with the flour. So it says for a little cake, I need 6 tablespoons of flour. So here is 1 big tablespoon, and I'm going to measure that out. Now when you measure it, you don't want it to like be a mountain in there. You want it to be smooth and flat. So help me count. We've got 1. Okay, next a pinch of salt. Let's see here. This is how I was taught to do a pinch. You put some in one palm, grab a pinch and go poof. 2 or 3 pinches of baking powder. 1, 2, 3. And 2 tablespoons of cooking oil. 1/3 of an egg. So, what I'm gonna do, since we're making 4 tiny little cakes today, I'm gonna mix this together. If you don't have a whisk, you can always use a fork. And then I'm going to split it up between the 4 cakes we're gonna make. So this will be a little bit tricky trying to measure out approximately 1/3 of this. what? I think I can do it. I think a third is going to be about a tablespoon. Maybe just a little bit more. Mix well. Let me mix it all up. Let me stir, stir, stir. So I think I've mixed the batter up pretty well. Now I'm going to put a little bit of oil on this paper towel and just grease my ramekin to help keep the cake from sticking to it. That layer of fat helps keep things from sticking. I'm going to pour the batter in to our baking cup. Ooh, it's gotten thick. Does smell good. Okay, so this is what it looks like, and now I'm gonna put it into our little oven for 15 to 20 minutes at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Here's my little oven right here. All right, our first cake with all of the regular cake ingredients is in the oven and will come out in a few minutes. Now we're gonna start working on cake number 2. And for cake number 2, we are going to leave the oil out of the recipe and see what happens. So while the first cake is finishing, I'm going to start making the second cake. Okay, I'm already noticing that when you don't put the oil into your cake batter, that it's crumbly. Look at that. Let me get a little bit closer so you can see. Look at it. It's really, really crumbly. Yeah, the more I stir it, it gets better. It's really thick though. So there, that's what it looks like. So I'm going to pour it into a greased ramekin, and so we can put it in the oven next. It moves even slower than the other batter. Oh, I'm so excited. Okay, be sure to get grown-ups help when you pull a cake out of the oven. You don't want to burn yourself. Oh, it smells so good. So good, it's worth singing about. Cake, beautiful cake. It did get taller. And it smells like a cake. So remember when we put the batter in it, the batter came down to about there. And now the top of the cake comes out over the top of the ramekin. So now I'm gonna start mixing up cake number 3. And cake number 3 has no egg. And 6 tablespoons of flour. And now 3 tablespoons of sugar. Oh, a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. The medicine go down. 1, 2, 3 pinches. 2 tablespoons of milk. And then 2 tablespoons of cooking oil. And 1/4 of a teaspoon of vanilla. And then egg? No, no, no. Nay, nay, nay. No egg in this one. I can tell you right now, it looks a little less yellow without the egg. And like the one without oil, like cake number 2, it is a little more crumbly, but not quite as bad. So it's pretty well mixed together. It's definitely got the oil in it. You can see it kind of shining on the bowl. But you know, even with the oil, I was able to get it to really come together after lots of stirring into one lump. And this one still feels, it's oily, but no, it's just not as one lumpy as the other ones, which I think is interesting. And look how it sticks on the spoon. Well, let me get this into a greased ramekin. Dense, it feels very dense and heavy. Remember how when we stirred up the other cake batters and how it kind of stuck to the sides of the bowl? None of this stuck to the sides of the bowl. I wonder if the egg is what makes it stick to the side of the bowl. So close, yet so far away. Oh yes, I was so close. One, so far away. And then we go for a pinch of salt, a pinch of salt, a pinch of salt. I'm excited about a pinch of salt. Are you excited too? And now we put in the baking soda. No, 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 nay, nay, nay. This one will not have any baking soda in it, so let's move on. Oh, time to stir it up then. 2 tablespoons of milk. Why do you build me a buttercup, baby, just to let me down? All right, let's mix it up, let's mix it up, let's mix this batter up. This one is the one that's most similar to the very first batter we made with all the ingredients. Yeah, this is really similar. It's got the similar thickness, similar smell. I wonder if this one will come out like the first one. But we left the baking powder out, so we'll see.
Bloop, 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 ba-doo. I said a bloop, 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 blah-doo.
And see how it's sticky again? I wonder if it's that egg that makes it so sticky. All right, so the oven just dinged for cake number 2, and I thought you might like to see our little oven here at our mobile kitchen. Open it up. Take it out. Close the door. We've got 2 more cakes left to cook. I'm so excited, boom, 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 and I just can't hide it. Let's get this cake out. Okay, so here are our 4 cakes that we made, and they're labeled. Here is cake number 1, the cake that we used all of the ingredients in. Smells good, looks great. Cake number 2 is a little bit crustier. This one has no oil in it, and it does look a little bit crumblier than cake 1. We'll cut into it in just a second. Cake 4, no eggs, and it looks like a crumbly lump. Ooh, and this one that we just took out, it's still a little bit warm. It's the one with no baking powder. And I'm kind of surprised. I thought the one with no baking powder would look like this. It still didn't get as tall as these 2 did, but it did puff up a little bit more than the one without any egg. So let's try to figure out ouch, be careful. Ooh, I need some regular pot holders. What is going on? Well, we do know that baking is a chemical reaction. When you add heat, like the heat from an oven or a microwave, to some of these ingredients, it changes, and that's called an endothermic reaction. Let me say that again, endothermic reaction. So yeah, baking is chemistry. Let's talk about the importance of some of the ingredients in this cake. Baking powder. This one didn't have any baking powder. These did. Now the purpose of baking powder in a cake is a fancy word called leaven, or you could just say that the baking powder also makes the cake spongy. It makes it rise. The baking powder produces gas bubbles that get trapped in the cake as it cooks. So this makes the cake get bigger or rise, and it makes it light and tender. And the actual bubbles that are made by the baking powder are carbon dioxide gas. And those bubbles make pockets of air that cause it to poof pull up because it's full of bubbles now. Now, this one that didn't have any baking soda in it didn't get as tall as these. So there must be some other ingredients that are really important to making a cake. Let's talk about eggs. This one didn't have any eggs, and as you can see, it is very, very flat. It's because the egg actually helps your cake rise as well, because it has proteins that are stretchy but also very structured that help protect those air bubbles. See, if you don't have an egg in it, the air bubbles may be there, but without nothing to kind of hold it or contain it, it just stays pretty flat. So the purpose of eggs in a cake is to add structure, a richness and flavor, help with the leavening or the rising. And again, remember those eggs get firm when they're heated, and it helps create the structure to hold all those carbon dioxide bubbles made by the baking powder. And also kind of makes it tender according to this. Now, those I think are the most important ingredients in working with that heat, creating that endothermic reaction to make a cake. But let's also talk about the purpose of oil in a cake. Oil is a fat, so it also helps contribute to that stretchiness. And the fat in baked goods, like cakes, helps keep the cake moist and tender when it comes out. So this one didn't have any oil. So it does look a little bit crumbly, maybe not as held together. So let's get a fork and kind of open these up to see if there's any difference when we look inside of them. So this is the first cake, the one that's regular. And when you open it up, looks pretty firm. I'm gonna taste it. Tastes like vanilla cake, fluffy, spongy, moist. I like it. Okay, let's cut into the one without any oil. Oh, it's denser. The one without any oil is a lot more dense. The air pockets aren't there. It's not as spongy. It's more like a rock. Okay, this is the one without any eggs in it. It's really flat. And it's, even though it's kind of soupy in the middle. I mean, it's cooked, but not fluffy, not even dense, just more like no structure. You can really tell that there's no egg in there. And this is the last one. Excuse me, the one without baking powder. Let's try it. It's very similar to this one actually, but it's, I don't know, it tastes kind of different, and it's definitely not as spongy. So I can see where the egg gave it structure, but without the baking powder, I think it also just tastes a little off. Not bad, just different. Okay, I don't have all the ingredients to send in your take-home kits to make a whole cake. But what I will be sending home with you are the recipes that I used to do our cake experiment. I will also send you a recipe card to make a small piece of cake in a mug in your microwave. Yeah, have you ever made cake in your microwave? Did you know you can make cake in your microwave, right? Well, you know, normally my little cakes only took about 20 minutes each to cook in the oven, but a full-size cake might take an hour or more. But if you have a microwave oven at home, you can make a small cake in minutes. Now, guess what kind of energy microwaves use to create that endothermic reaction? Microwaves. Yep, that's right. It uses microwaves. Those microwaves go into the food and it heats up the water in your ingredients and it makes the water move around really, really fast, and that creates a lot of heat, which in turn cooks or is this foundation of the endothermic reaction. Man, sometimes I really wish I could get that chemistry vocabulary I learned in high school to stick in my head. I digress. Anyway, but as you learned today, those microwaves are just one part of the important things that have to happen to make cake. You also need baking powder to make it spongy, to make those air bubbles, and you need egg to protect those carbon dioxide bubbles to make your cake fluffy and cake-like in texture. All right, so in your kit, you'll get the recipe card for the Magic Mud Cake. You'll get 1/4 cup of flour. You will get I believe it is 2 tablespoons of white sugar. You will get 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder. And you will also get 2 tablespoons of chocolate chips. Yes, it's the ingredients, for making a chocolate chip cake. So at home, you can practice your chemistry. You can talk about your chemistry. You can use your measuring skills to gather your other ingredients. You can use your fine motor skills to put all the ingredients together. And you can get a grown-up's help to help you find your ingredients, mix them all together, and use the microwave. And you get to use your early literacy, your reading skills to follow the recipe. Thank you so much for joining me for some cake chemistry today in our mobile kitchen at the library. I love you all, and I'll see you next time. Mwah!